The clip was only 12 seconds long. It showed a brightly lit studio in London, polished desks, glowing screens, the familiar gravity of a global broadcaster that spoke with the confidence of history behind it. The anchor smiled, the kind of smile trained to look neutral but landed sharp anyway. And finally, he said lightly, a rather enthusiastic contribution from social media. The screen behind him played a short audio clip. A woman's voice, steady, accented, unmistakably Filipino, explained a complex issue about labor migration, remittances, and how global economic policies quietly leaned on invisible workers. Before she could finish, the anchor chuckled. "Well," he said, tilting his head, "passion is always good. Accuracy is another matter." Soft laughter rippled through the panel. Not loud. Not cruel. Just enough. The clip ended there. No correction. No rebuttal. Just a smirk, a segue, and the next headline. In Quezon City, it was nearly midnight when Mara Alonzo saw it. She had been half asleep, phone glowing above her chest, thumb scrolling on instinct more than interest. She worked 2 jobs, community radio by day, freelance translation by night, and exhaustion had become a second skin. But when she heard the laugh, her eyes snapped open. She replayed it. Again. The voice in the clip belonged to Lila Serrano. Mara knew it immediately. Anyone in Philippine public media did. Lila had been explaining migration policy on radio long before it became fashionable to talk about global South perspectives. She spoke carefully, deliberately, choosing words like someone who knew she would be interrupted if she rushed. And she had been. Mara sat up, heart pounding, not with anger yet, but with something colder. Recognition. By morning, the clip was everywhere. At first, the reactions were predictable. Commentators dissected tone. Others argued about credentials. A few defended the anchor, saying it was harmless, saying people were too sensitive, saying accents didn't matter as long as the content was good. But that was the thing. The content was good. In fact, within hours, economists, policy analysts, labor advocates, many of them based in Europe and North America, began sharing longer clips of Lila's original commentary. They posted transcripts. They highlighted data points. They linked studies that echoed her exact arguments. "This is accurate," one wrote. "She's right," another said simply. "We've been saying this for years, she just said it better." In Manila, Mara arrived at the cramped radio station where she worked mornings. The usual hum filled the air, old fans rattling, coffee brewing too strong, producers arguing softly over rundowns. Someone had already pulled up the BBC clip on a monitor. "Did you see this?" a colleague asked. Mara nodded. They laughed. Her colleague sighed. They always do. But something felt different. By lunchtime, #Defend the Filipino voice was trending, not just in the Philippines, but in Singapore, Dubai, Toronto, London. Overseas Filipino workers shared videos recorded in break rooms, on ships, in hospital corridors. "We talk like this because this is how we learn to survive. Accent is not ignorance. Our English feeds your economies." A nurse in Leeds filmed herself after a 12-hour shift, still in scrubs. "If you trust us with your lives," she said, voice shaking but clear, "you can trust our voices." Back in London, the BBC newsroom began to feel it. Phones rang more often. Emails flooded in. Some were angry, yes, but many were calm, methodical, devastating in their politeness. Professors pointed out factual accuracy. Journalists from other outlets asked for comment. A few advertisers quietly inquired about brand alignment. The anchor from the clip avoided social media that day. He told himself it would blow over. These things always did. Except it didn't. Because the defense wasn't just emotional, it was precise. People stitched the original 12 seconds with full lectures, policy papers, on-the-ground reports from Filipino workers across continents. The internet did what it did best when underestimated, it contextualized. Lila Serrano herself hadn't said a word yet. She was in Davao, finishing a community forum on contract reform, when her phone finally buzzed too much to ignore. Messages from former students. From colleagues abroad. From strangers thanking her for saying what we couldn't. She watched the clip once. Just once. Then she closed the app. That evening, she posted a single sentence. "Voices carry history. Laughing at them doesn't erase the truth they hold." Nothing else. The post went viral in minutes. Meanwhile, Mara sat in the radio booth, staring at the waveform of her own voice as she prepared for her segment. She hesitated, finger hovering over the mic switch. Then she thought of Lila. Of the laugh. Of the millions who sounded just like her. She went live. "This isn't about one broadcaster," Mara said, voice steady. "This is about who gets to sound credible. And who has to earn it twice." Listeners called in. One by one. Stories poured out. A seafarer whose English was mocked until an emergency proved his clarity. A student whose accent faded the moment her research spoke. A grandmother who reminded everyone that the Philippines learned English under occupation, and mastered it anyway. Across time zones, something shifted. International media outlets began publishing think pieces, not about outrage, but about linguistic bias. Universities shared clips of Lila's full commentary in classes. Even journalists who had once dismissed accent discourse started listening differently. 3 days later, the BBC released a statement. It was careful. Corporate. Regretful without admitting fault. It didn't land well. What landed was what came next. During a primetime segment, the same anchor sat straighter than usual. "No smile this time. We want to revisit a clip from earlier this week," he said. And more importantly, the expert behind it. The screen didn't play the 12 seconds. It played 5 uninterrupted minutes of Lila Serrano explaining migration economics with calm authority. Charts appeared. Context filled the studio. No laughter followed. When the clip ended, the anchor cleared his throat. "The analysis," he said, choosing his words, "was accurate. And deserved better framing." It wasn't an apology. But it was enough to make the studio silent. In Quezon City, Mara exhaled for what felt like the first time in days. She knew the world wouldn't change overnight. Accents would still be judged. Voices would still be filtered through bias before being heard. But millions had spoken, together, distinctly, unmistakably. And this time, no one was laughing. Because the Filipino voice had never been a joke. It had simply been waiting for the world to listen. The clip eventually faded from timelines, replaced by new outrage, new noise, new cycles of forgetting. That was how the internet worked. But something quieter remained. In classrooms across Europe, Lila Serrano's analysis was now part of reading lists. Not as a viral moment, but as a reference. In newsrooms, junior producers replayed the incident during editorial meetings, not to shame, but to remind themselves how easily authority could mistake tone for truth. Mara kept her job at the radio station. She still worked 2 shifts. Still rode crowded jeepneys home. But callers spoke differently now, less hesitant, less apologetic about how they sounded. When they stumbled, they didn't stop. Neither did she. One evening, months later, a new BBC segment aired. Different topic. Different panel. A Filipino economist spoke, accented, calm, uninterrupted. No smiles. No smirks. Just listening. Mara watched from her small apartment, phone resting face down after the segment ended. She didn't post. She didn't comment. She simply smiled. Because the loud defense had done its job. And the silence that followed, respectful, attentive, earned, was the real ending.